Meekness is not weakness, according to the Scriptures. Jesus says in Matthew 5:5, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." He also uses this language to describe himself in Matthew chapter 11 when he says, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls." In other words, you're never going to find rest unless you find it in the person of Christ, who is meek and lowly in heart. The Scripture speaks very highly of meekness and humility. Now, in Numbers chapter 12, we find it recorded of Moses, the servant of the Lord, that he was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. So the problem is when a person yields themselves in such a way to the Lord that God can actually do something in them, it oftentimes breeds jealousy and resentment in the lives of those around that person. And this is true in Moses' case because that's the context of Numbers 12, when we find that statement being recorded about his meekness. Moses had married an Ethiopian woman, and his two siblings, his brother Aaron and his sister Miriam, looked for an opportunity, or found this as an opportunity, to criticize Moses. And they said, "Hath the Lord indeed spoken by Moses only? Hath he not spoken by us?" So they're saying God isn't only using Moses, we're also the servants of God, and God also speaks through us as well. The problem with this is Moses was content to spend 40 days and nights up on the mountain with the Lord. Aaron and Miriam weren't. They criticized out of a spirit of jealousy. That's all that was, really. And the problem is, this is exactly what we do. As Christians, as human beings, we take anybody else's excellence and we try to turn it against them to comfort ourselves and to console ourselves in the fact that we're not willing to put in the effort that they're willing to put in. We're not willing to pray like they're willing to pray. We're not willing to study like they're willing to study. We're not willing to submit what they were willing to submit. And maybe we're not willing to admit the fact that God hasn't called you to be a Moses. Maybe God has called you to be somebody that is a much more minor character, but still very important. We all want to do great, awesome, wonderful things, but what is required of us is that we be faithful in the small things that God has entrusted us with. So what sin does, and what our lesson is for today, is sin envies other people's fellowship with God. And when a person begins to be blessed, we look for an opportunity to criticize them to make ourselves feel better that we're not being blessed in the same way that they're being blessed.